The White House war room goes silent as the report lands on the desk. 8.8 million tons of strategic lithium reserves have just been locked down. The U.S. electric vehicle roadmap has hit a concrete wall in the Sonoran Desert. Mexico has not just nationalized a mineral. They have seized the future of energy. This is not a trade dispute. This is the new geopolitical chessboard. Subscribe now to understand the tactical reality of energy sovereignty. The era of cheap extraction is over. The era of strategic partnership begins. The timeline shifts to the arid, sun-scorched terrain of Baca de Hachi, Sonora. Geologists survey the landscape, their instruments detecting massive clay deposits. This is not the brine of Chile or the hard rock of Australia. This is unique. Underneath the dust lies the fuel for the next century of transportation. The coordinates mark one of the largest undeveloped lithium sources on the planet. For decades, foreign entities viewed this land merely as a resource pit. Maps were drawn, concessions traded, and stock prices inflated in distant capitals. But on the ground, the machinery of the state was quietly recalibrating its doctrine. The Mexican government initiated a comprehensive review of every mining contract. Intelligence units analyzed the investment logs of foreign concession holders. The findings were precise. Minimum investment clauses had not been met. The legal framework provided the perfect tactical opening for a sovereign reclamation. This was not an expropriation based on whim, but a reclamation based on law. The decree was drafted with the precision of a military operation order. It established a single, non-negotiable principle: lithium belongs to the nation. Washington's strategists had banked on seamless integration of Mexican raw materials. The Inflation Reduction Act presumed access to these minerals for tax credits. Detroit's automakers had calculated their supply chains based on open borders. Those calculations were instantly rendered obsolete by the stroke of a pen. The creation of Litio para Mexico, Litiomex, changed the command structure forever. The shockwaves traveled instantly through the global mining conglomerates. Ganfeng Lithium, a titan of the industry, found its 9 concessions canceled. The stock tickers in Shanghai and New York registered the volatility immediately. Lawyers began drafting arbitration notices, threatening billion-dollar lawsuits. But in Mexico City, the resolve remained absolute. Sovereignty is not for sale. We are witnessing the activation of Plan Sonora, a grand strategic defense. It is a multi-layered shield integrating energy, mining, and industrialization. The plan does not stop at extraction. It demands the entire value chain. You want the lithium? You must build the batteries here. You want the batteries? You must assemble the vehicles on Mexican soil. The technical challenge is the first line of defense for this new entity. Extracting lithium from clay is a metallurgical nightmare compared to brine. Engineers face the task of designing massive calcination roasters. The clay must be heated to exactly 600 degrees Celsius to unlock the mineral. It requires a precision never before achieved at this commercial scale. Imagine the industrial complex rising from the desert floor. Excavators removing megatons of overburden to reach the lithium-bearing layers. Conveyor belts stretching for kilometers, transporting the ore to the crushers. The sound of grinding rock echoes against the Sierra Madre Mountains. This is the physical manifestation of economic independence. Chemical engineers monitor the acid-leaching tanks with obsessive scrutiny. Sulfuric acid is pumped in to separate the lithium from the aluminum silicates. The pH levels must be maintained with zero margin for error. A variance of 0.1 could result in millions of dollars of lost yield. This is the high-stakes reality of modern chemical metallurgy. The United States finds itself in a precarious tactical position. To meet its 2030 EV targets, it needs lithium, and it needs it close to home. Reliance on Asian supply chains is a strategic vulnerability they cannot afford. Mexico knows this. They are holding the ultimate leverage card. The negotiation table has replaced the open mine pit. Diplomats race back and forth between Mexico City and Washington. The conversation has shifted from extraction rights to technology transfer. Mexico demands the know-how to process the clay, not just rent payments. They require the establishment of research centers and specialized universities. The goal is to create a generation of Mexican engineers who command the technology. This creates a friction point that defines the current crisis for automakers. They are accustomed to controlling the upstream supply to dictate costs. Now, they must negotiate with a state-owned entity, Lithium. The pricing power shifts from the buyer to the sovereign seller. This disruption threatens the thin profit margins of the EV transition. In the boardrooms of Tesla, Ford, and GM, emergency meetings are called. Supply chain managers scramble to find alternative sources, but few exist. The lithium deficit is a mathematical certainty in the coming decade. Mexico's reserves are too large to ignore, too strategic to bypass. They are forced to accept the new rules of engagement. Meanwhile, the legal battle intensifies in international courts. The arbitration filings by Chinese firms claim violation of investment treaties. Mexico's defense team stands firm on the constitutionality of the mining law. They argue that strategic resources are a matter of national security. This legal warfare will define the boundaries of state sovereignty for years. The Plan Sonora also integrates a massive renewable energy component. The Puerto Penasco solar plant represents the energy backbone of the project. 1 gigawatt of solar power to fuel the energy-intensive mining process. This is a closed-loop system, green energy producing green minerals. It destroys the narrative that mining must be inherently dirty. Grid operators synchronize the transmission lines across the border. Energy exports become another layer of the strategic partnership. The interdependence between the U.S. Southwest and northern Mexico deepens, but this time, the terms are dictated by mutual necessity, not imposition. The power dynamic has achieved a new, albeit tense, equilibrium. Technicians at the pilot plants in Sonora work around the clock. They are testing the roasting durations, tweaking the temperature curves. Every percentage point of recovery rate is a victory for the state. They are proving that the skeptics were wrong about the clay deposits. It is difficult, yes, but it is not impossible. The geopolitical lens widens to include the Asian giants. They watch closely, seeing a model that other nations might emulate. If Mexico succeeds, will Chile and Argentina tighten their grip? We are seeing the rise of resource nationalism as a global doctrine. The free market of minerals is being replaced by the strategic market. Back in the desert, the infrastructure build-out accelerates. Roads are widened to accommodate heavy machinery and transport trucks. High-voltage lines are strung across the canyons to power the refineries. Security forces establish a perimeter to protect the strategic assets. The National Guard ensures that the wealth remains within the borders. This military presence is not just symbolic, it is operational. They protect the mines from the encroachment of organized crime. The cartels know the value of the white gold and seek to siphon it. The state must prove it can hold the territory and the asset. Secure borders and secure mines are two sides of the same coin. The timeline moves to the near future, the crucial phase of production. The first batches of battery-grade lithium carbonate emerge from the refinery. White powder, pure and certified, ready for the cathode factories. It is stamped with the seal of Lithium Mix, a symbol of triumph. It is loaded onto trains bound for factories within Mexico, not abroad. Assembly lines in San Luis Potosi and Monterrey gear up. Robots weld battery packs into the chassis of next-generation vehicles. These cars will bear the label made in Mexico in the truest sense. From the mine to the motor, the value remains in the country. This was the vision that the decree sought to realize. The U.S. strategy must now pivot to accommodation and collaboration. They offer incentives for companies to partner with Lithium. The rhetoric of conflict softens into the language of integration. They realize that a strong, energy-independent Mexico is an ally. The crisis was the catalyst for a more mature bilateral relationship. However, the technical risks remain a constant shadow over the project. If the clay extraction costs prove too high, the market could stall. Global lithium prices are volatile, swinging with supply gluts. Lithium must navigate these market storms without the cushion of a diversified portfolio. The state takes on the risk that private equity used to bear. Critics argue that the state lacks the agility of the private sector. They point to the delays in bringing the pilot plants to full scale. But supporters argue that the long-term gain outweighs the short-term inefficiencies. It is a bet on the 50-year horizon, not the quarterly report. It is a legacy project for the future generations of the Republic. The environmental monitors are the unsung heroes of this narrative. They ensure that the water tables are not depleted by the leaching process. Desert ecosystems are fragile. A mistake could be irreversible. Sustainable mining is the only path to long-term viability. The world demands clean batteries, not just electric ones. As the sun sets over the Sonoran Desert, the scale of the ambition is clear. The silence of the vast plains is broken by the hum of progress. Mexico has drawn a line in the sand, literally and figuratively. They have asserted their right to control their destiny. The lithium underground is no longer just a mineral, it is a flag. The crushing of the U.S. strategy was a wake-up call, not a defeat. It forced a realignment of North American industrial policy. It highlighted the fragility of assumptions made in air-conditioned offices. Real power lies in the physical control of the raw materials, and that control has now shifted south of the border. We are entering a phase of high-stakes industrial diplomacy. Every contract signed by Lithium is scrutinized by intelligence agencies. Is the technology coming from the West or the East? Who gets the priority allocation of the refined product? These are the questions that will define the next decade. The narrative of the future crisis is actually the birth pangs of a new order, an order where the global South demands equal footing in the value chain. Mexico is leading this charge, taking the hits and the risks. The outcome is not guaranteed, but the direction is set. There is no turning back to the old model of extraction. The machinery grinds on, processing ton after ton of clay. The chemistry labs buzz with activity, refining the separation techniques. The ports are upgraded to handle the export of finished goods. The education system adapts to produce the necessary talent. The entire nation mobilizes around this strategic pillar. This is the reality of the lithium supply chain today. It is complex, fraught with tension, and undeniably critical. The batteries that will power the world are being born from this struggle, and at the center of it all stands the Mexican state, unyielding. They have secured the resource. Now they must master it. The operational saldo is positive, but the mission is ongoing. Vigilance is required to prevent corruption and inefficiency. The world watches to see if Lithium can deliver on its promise. If they succeed, they change the economic geography of the Americas. If they fail, the opportunity may be lost for a century. But for now, the drills are turning, and the plans are advancing. The sovereignty of the resource is the foundation of the strategy. The U.S. has adjusted, the industry has adapted. The crisis has been managed, transformed into a complex partnership. Order has been maintained through the assertion of law. This concludes the tactical briefing on the Mexican lithium situation. The perimeter is secure. The assets are under state control. The future is electric, but the power dynamics are shifting. Stay alert for further updates on this developing strategic theater. End of transmission. The sheer magnitude of the geological formation in Sonora cannot be overstated. We are talking about a mineralized zone that extends 4 kilometers. Layers of clay, millions of years old, hold the lithium ions in a molecular grip. Breaking that grip requires energy, chemistry, and engineering prowess. It is a fortress of nature that must be breached with science. To understand the difficulty, one must understand the molecule. In brine, the lithium is already in solution, ready to be precipitated. In hard rock, it is locked in spodumene, a crystal that cracks under heat. In clay, it is bound within the phyllosilicate structure itself. You have to destroy the clay structure without destroying the lithium. This requires the sulfation roasting technique or advanced acid digestion. The ore is mixed with sulfate salts and roasted in a rotary kiln. The kiln rotates slowly, a massive steel cylinder lined with refractory brick. Inside, the temperature climbs to the critical activation point. It is an inferno designed to liberate the prize. Once roasted, the material is cooled and fed into leaching tanks. Water and acid wash over the calcined earth. The lithium dissolves into the liquid, leaving the waste clay behind. This pregnant leach solution is then purified. Impurities like magnesium and calcium must be stripped away. Magnesium is the enemy of battery-grade lithium. It interferes with the electrochemical performance of the battery. Separating it requires complex precipitation steps or ion exchange resins. This is where the operational costs can skyrocket. This is where the technical battle is won or lost. Lithium is partnering with research institutes to optimize this flow. They are looking for catalysts that can lower the roasting temperature. They are developing membranes that can filter out the impurities more efficiently. Innovation is the weapon they are using to conquer the geology. Every efficiency gain translates to millions in revenue. The logistics of moving the material are equally daunting. Baca de Ajachi is remote, nestled in the rugged Sierra Madre. Building the access roads was a feat of civil engineering. Heavy trucks carrying chemical reagents must navigate the mountain passes. The supply line must be unbreakable. Then there is the issue of water in an arid region. Mining is a thirsty industry, and Sonora is a desert state. The plan calls for water recycling rates exceeding 90%. Tailings must be dry stacked to recover every drop of moisture. Water management is not just environmental, it is existential. The local communities are key stakeholders in this operation. They are the eyes and ears on the ground. The government has promised that the wealth will flow locally. Jobs, infrastructure, and development are the currency of stability. Without local support, the security of the operation is compromised. The contrast with the old model is stark. Previously, a foreign company would fly in, extract, and fly out. The profits would be repatriated to Toronto or London. The dust in the holes would be left for the locals. That cycle has been broken by the nationalization decree. Now, the mandate is shared prosperity. It is a political slogan, yes, but it is also a security strategy. If the people benefit, they defend the project. If they are excluded, they become a vulnerability. The social license to operate is as important as the environmental permit. The U.S. Department of Energy monitors these developments closely. They know that Sonora could be the lithium valley of North America, but they also know that the gatekeeper is now the Mexican state. They cannot dictate terms. They must propose collaboration. This creates a more balanced, respectful geopolitical relationship. The vision of electric trucks transporting goods across the border is nearing. Batteries made in Sonora, powering trucks built in Michigan. It is an integrated future, but one based on mutual respect. The crisis was necessary to reset the terms of trade. It forced the recognition of Mexico as an equal partner. As the global demand for EVs accelerates, the pressure will mount. Every automaker is desperate to lock in supply contracts. Lithium will be in the enviable position of choosing its partners. They can demand the highest environmental standards. They can select the companies that offer the best technology transfer. The strategy is a long game, played on a timeline of decades. It survives political cycles because the strategic imperative is constant. Energy sovereignty is a concept that transcends party lines. It is about the survival and strength of the nation, and it is built on the bedrock of the Sonoran clay. The intricate dance between geology and geopolitics continues. The molecules of lithium do not care about borders, but the men and women who control them certainly do. The extraction of this resource is an act of statecraft. It is the physical manifestation of national will. We look at the instruments in the control room of the pilot plant. The dials are green, the pressure is stable, the flow rate is increasing, the quality is improving. The system is coming online, piece by piece. The giant is awakening. The crushing weight of expectation rests on the engineers. They are the soldiers of this industrial war. Their victory is measured in tons of lithium carbonate equivalent. Their battlefield is the laboratory and the processing plant. And they are winning, step by methodical step. The world changes not by grand declarations, but by operational realities. When the first commercial shipment leaves the gate, the world changes. The supply chain map is redrawn. The reliance on transoceanic shipping is reduced. North America becomes more self-sufficient, more resilient. This is the ultimate goal of the strategy. Resilience in the face of global instability, sovereignty in a world of interdependent chaos. A future secured by the foresight of today. The lithium of Sonora is the key to that future. The sun beats down on the solar panels of Puerto Penasco. They silently harvest the energy that powers the dream. It is a clean, quiet, and powerful revolution. And it is happening right now, just south of the border. The crisis is over. The work has begun.